What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today's going to be a bit of a doozy of an episode. There's going to be quite a few new things to cover for rogues, and kinda just covenants in general today, so this is going to be a sort of recap video to start this week's information off, so let's dig in. So today I'm playing a bit of catch up with the news, as I wanted to talk about this all a lot sooner but got kinda tied up with other things. Basically, this video is going to cover the 3 big Covenant ability tuning changes that rogues have seen in the last beta build, as well as some Covenant Soulbind tuning and an extra little goodie regarding Outlaw. As a quick breakdown of what we'll be talking about today, I'll let you all know really quick. For the Necrolords, our Serrated Bone Spike Covenant ability has received a triple whammy in damage reductions and nerfs. Emini, one of the 3 Soulbind characters of the Necrolords, has received a revised and improved ability to her Soulbind tree. Echoing Reprimand, the Kyrian Covenant ability for rogues, has received a couple sizable increases. Also, the main star of the Kyrian Covenant, Pelagos, has undergone a little bit of a nerf on one of his Soulbind talents. Flagellation, the new Venthyr rogue ability, has received a noticeable loss in damage. And lastly, Outlaw is now able to spread poisons with Blade Flurry. Before I get too wrapped up in this video though, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank all of my latest patrons to the channel. I've heard back from quite a few of you already, but for those who haven't yet, I've sent you all messages via Patreon, so just message me back there to let me know what names you want in the credits of all future videos for the channel. Joining the Super Shiba Squad tier today, we have Gronak the Orc, Gara, Tiratus, Quickness, Rock Says Paper OP, Lucky Inner, and JD. Again, thank you all so much for your generosity and for deciding to help support the channel this way. The recent support has been overwhelming and I probably couldn't say thank you enough even if I tried to, but I will still try to. Okay, so now let's dig into our changes. Starting with the Necrolords, this is probably one of the most hotly discussed rogue-specific things going on right now. Serrated Bone Spike has received a pretty hefty damage reduction in a number of ways. In terms of the damage breakdown, Serrated Bone Spike was sort of a 3-part attack. It would deal damage to a target when you cast it at them, as well as leaving a bleed on them that ticked every 3 seconds. On top of this, it would cause any additional targets hit with a Serrated Bone Spike while a Bone Spike bleed is active on any targets nearby to take even more damage from that initial hit, which was known as the fracture mechanic. So the damage component and bleed have been substantially reduced in damage, and the fracture mechanic is now entirely gone. This ability also costs 5 more energy than it did before, which is technically a 50% increase since it was only 10 energy prior to this build. Honestly, the largest loss of damage from this change is the removal of the fracture mechanic in terms of overall damage output, though all of these nerfs together do come out to a massive fall from the powerhouse of an ability that this move once was. It still does generate a very consistent flow of combo points and is affected by Assassination's mastery, as well as the initial hit can be Blade Flurried as Outlaw. Though I will need to go into a few more Mythic Plus dungeons to give this ability a real shakedown in its current state to give you an idea of how it's really performing. As for the Necrolord Soulbind Emini, this was a change that could help offset the importance of the damage of Bone Spike onto the Covenant Soulbind talents instead. The final talent in Emini's Soulbind tree has changed once again. It is now Lead by Example. This new Soulbind talent makes it so anytime you cast Serrated Bone Spike, you will gain 5% increased agility, and your allies will increase 2% of their primary stat as well for 5 seconds. You'll gain an additional 5% agility for each ally affected, up to 15%. This is something I still need to unlock to personally test, but this sounds to be an exceptionally strong Soulbind effect at the moment that currently has no internal cooldown to it apparently. This means you can have a pretty exceptional amount of agility bonus up whenever you cast a Serrated Bone Spike, which can happen very often in multi-target scenarios due to it resetting a charge when something dies with Serrated Bone Spike active on it. Honestly, I'm sure it will get an internal cooldown put on this effect, but I'm really interested to try it and see how potent it is currently. Okay, onto the Kyrian Changes. Echoing Reprimand, which was once the bottom of the barrel in terms of damaging abilities, is now actually quite strong. The damage component itself was increased by over double its original amount, a 125% relative increase to be exact, from 60% of combat power to 135% of combat power, which in turn causes the reverberation conduit to be a lot more enticing. On top of this, the ability has had a slight wording change that makes it noticeably better, especially for Outlaw and Subtlety. The original wording of this ability meant that your anima-charged finisher merely dealt the damage of a 7 combo point finisher. However, now it acts as though you spent 7 combo points. This is a very big difference, since now it means that it will affect the cooldown reduction from Restless Blades and True Bearing as Outlaw even more, as well as the cooldown reduction for Deepening Shadows and the talent Enveloping Shadows as Subtlety. Assassination unfortunately does not see these same cooldown reduction benefits, though it should still allow for potent Rupture applications and extended duration Envenoms. As a Covenant change to Pelagos, the Combat Meditation effect has been given a 1-minute cooldown for the 5% Mastery bonus. Due to Echoing Reprimand being a 45-second cooldown, I'm actually not sure how large of a detriment this will be, as I've yet to get a bunch of the Covenant campaign stuff done amongst all my copies of Zera to test this. I plan on doing some more in-depth looks into each of the Covenant changes this week and what they all really mean for the class, however, so keep an eye on those particular videos this week. This next one was kind of unexpected, to be honest. There was a tooltip change on Flagellation for its damage calculation. However, since this beta build went in, our newest iteration of the Venthyr Rogue ability has taken quite a hit in terms of overall damage output. This was once around 6% or so of my overall damage as Outlaw, and it's now like 2.5 to 3%, so a very sizable damage decrease. The move also, unfortunately, is still only giving the Mastery bonus as 10% of your Mastery combat rating, meaning it's still exceptionally low in this regard. And for Outlaw, another nice benefit has been added to our toolkit. Blade Flurry will now spread all of your poisons to any targets hit, meaning instant poison is actually a pretty respectable damage increase for the spec compared to prior iterations of it. It also had a couple weird issues with it not working with some abilities for a while, but yeah. The interaction with Blade Flurry is pretty frickin' awesome. On top of that, this move also works with our non-lethal poisons now, meaning AoE slow effects from Crippling Poison, and even more impressive, an AoE attack speed and cast speed slow of 15% while Numbing Poison is on them. This alone is a pretty big deal, and will definitely be a nice bonus to our dungeon utility, as if we didn't have a ton of that already. I hope this brief overview was a good indicator of some of the changes rogues have seen since the last beta build. I plan on binging through the Covenant campaigns for the Kyrians and the Necrolords this week, mainly so I can test the Soulbind talent effects, and so I can more specifically test each of the Covenant special abilities to full effect. Though if I had to say anything about them, I'm still not a huge fan of Echoing Reprimand's combo point minigame thing, though I can see why some might find it to be an interesting prospect. I also have a hunch that Serrated Bone Spike will still be a respectable option in multi-target like Mythic Plus, at least for Outlaw. Though that is entirely just off of Feelycraft, so don't take that too seriously yet. Even with the damage reduction, I still kinda prefer the way that Bone Spike plays over some of the alternatives, though I'll do my best to give a non-biased opinion of these changes in their upcoming videos. I hope you folks enjoyed this overview video of the latest beta build. If so, any likes, comments, or new subscribers are always fantastically appreciated. If you're new around here, I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every weekday on a variety of content, with a pretty big emphasis on rogue-specific stuff, especially during beta. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons for helping make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.